to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda, Bob, you want to come up and join us? Is the Community Development Block Grant Program. This is a federal program that we work with the county with.
Where do you want it?
To give us funding for community development. So in some of the projects we've done, or we did the entranceway here.
Yes, the doors to town hall, mostly to make things more handicap accessible.
We did some work over at the community center.
The senior center, we did the kitchen and some repairs down there, mainly the kitchen. We did the tot lot, we refurbished the tot lot. And then the rest of the things really had to do with handicap accessibility to facilities.
And in conversations with the powers that be that you deal with, they kind of inferred that maybe we should be looking for more money, more funding.
Well,
Something,
they always say, I mean, it's funded through HUD.
right?
So they're always looking for community housing projects. So and the thing is, we'd have to go to them with some kind of project.
Concrete.
Prices, yeah, some surveys, just, and a lot of they do want to, it's all based on low to moderate income. I think they want you to be 80% of the mean income, which for 2020 on Shelter Island was like 97,000 change. So 80% of that is in the 70s. 80% of that's like 77, almost $78,000. So, I mean, and we might have some low to moderate income areas. But, so it always says that eligible activities have to do with decent housing, expanding economic opportunity, and suitable living environment for people. So they have 3 avenues, which is housing rehabilitation, public improvements and facilities, and public services. So public services could be like, I think if you had a program for youth and, you know, the members coming would fit that family dynamic. Program for seniors would fit that too, because pretty much seniors pretty much always, they consider low to moderate income. That's why any project at the senior center is okay. But yeah, as we know, a lot of the other East End communities, East Hampton and Riverhead, Southampton a little bit too, they have gotten a lot of this HUD money for housing. And they have individual programs too, but basically like they describe here, it's principally to benefit low and moderate income persons below 80% of the area median income, linked with other stakeholders to reduce poverty and homelessness, create and retain jobs, expand economic development opportunities. So that's another pathway. Are integrated in a long-range community strategy, provide further public and private investment, enhance deteriorated residential and business districts, and promote partnerships and leveraging of funds with local, state, federal, and private sources. So you can link private money with some of this money, like if you're doing a big enough project. I mean, you know, sometimes you think of like Bridge Street. Could Bridge Street qualify as in the business district, maybe for sewer?
It might not with the income eligibility. That's kind of why we focus in the center here.
Yeah,
So
yeah, so certainly, I mean, that's 2020, that
Right.
kind of median income. I don't know if they go by that or they increased it since we're now in 2022,
So normally what we, in the past, what the town has done is, you know, what projects are we looking at? Where would this be eligible?
Exactly.
Just real quick, we talked about some continued work at the community center. We talked about work at the senior center, plumbing and some
Right.
utilities there. What we never really discussed was the whole housing rehabilitation part. I'm just going to read this.
Right.
This includes housing rehab programs include residential properties, publicly or privately owned, not profit owned, non-residential buildings, and improvements that are not considered to be public facilities. Eligible types of assistance may include the cost of labor, materials, supplies, and other expenses required for the rehabilitation of property, including the replacement cost, heating, cooling systems, windows, installation, cost of evaluating and treating lead-based paint, whether alone or in conjunction with other rehabilitation, the cost of connecting existing residential structures to water distribution lines or local sewer collection lines. Housing programs may also include funding for the development or acquisition of rental units or funding of home buyer and fair housing counseling and education to low and moderate income households. So I kind of tossed it around as I spoke with each member of the town board. We have this building next door that the town owns. And we have 3 rental units in it, and it's in terrible disrepair to the point where I think we'd be throwing good money into bad if we tried to fix it. So if it's eligible, maybe we should try to get plans, real plans in time to, start this process to,
For the next funding round.
yeah. Any thoughts on any other, ADA, we're also budgeting ADA compliance we budgeted the study for the police department, we're budgeting this year for the study for the Justice Hall, then we'll be going forward with implementation of that, so that's another one we could be looking at. We can apply for more than one, right, and then see what they,
Well, for this budget round, I think you just give them one project.
okay,
And it says your 2023 allocation may be equal to your 2022 allocation, which was like 13,000.
yeah,
However, she always tells me if you
Yes.
come to us with a good
right,
plan,
yeah,
a program that they like, that they'd like to, that
Yeah.
meets the HUD criteria.
I mean, we've made a commitment for the ADA project, but next door is really an actual
Yeah, I mean-
waiting to happen, and I think we should see if it's eligible to do something,
Yeah.
funding wise.
So I could reach out to her and ask her about that. And it's good in what you read, said that it could be a town-owned.
Yes.
So that's,
right.
it doesn't have to be, so,
I think we should develop a plan A and a plan B.
Yeah.
Plan A, by what the supervisor has just stated, is the building next door, which houses 3,
would you try to make it more?
Yes.
Rentals in
Yeah.
there, okay. Rehab.
Are you talking about rehabbing it?
No, I think
You're
talking about knocking it down.
Yeah.
Building a new one,
Yeah.
but,
Okay,
And the plan B, would it be a more moderate type of project, which, something that we're talking about, plan A is a fairly costly project. But if she's asking us, to challenge her in terms of a need here, these are 3 people that work here on the island, and, there is a need here. Again, you can't guarantee those people.
I think we should have three choices. So what's your second one?
Oh, the second one is, I think would I don't know, I think the ADA is falling into line with first, we have a path to follow with that. I would yield to the other people about, plan B and plan C if you thought we should go 3 initiatives here. But by far, we can no longer, we own it. We need to deal with this problem.
I think we should, to follow up on your thought, Jim, is I think we should identify whatever potential projects there are, then prioritize. I would say, I would start with next door. And, if you want a quick fix, their senior center, or for the long term, the ADA. But those would be the 3 I would, we just have to decide
I think the
exactly what we want. Go ahead.
The ADA, if this has to be submitted by December 1st and it's for the 2023 year, we'll have the PED ADA
Designs.
design, and then we're budgeting Justice Court, so hopefully that'll just be rolled into. So by this time next year, hopefully we'll have what we need to do a real submission on those two buildings through this program.
Right. Mhm.
Do they have any historic significance, the two buildings? Either one of the two buildings, have we ever applied for that, or are they designated? They are now 80 years of age.
I know, but I don't think they're designated
Okay.
as historic.
Okay.
Sometimes you want to be careful.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, then you don't have to do certain things.
Cha-ching.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so what I would say is, we'll come to a consensus on, what we want to investigate. And then, and what's realistic, the timeline Barbara gave us, get plans for this year and what we should put off till next year.
December 1st, it's got to be in by.
Yeah, well, the main thing is that once you come up with your idea, we have to do the public notice and then have a public meeting for the
Right.
public to weigh in.
Mhm.
And then
Yes.
you make your decision and get the resolution to spend the money. I think for the 2023 money, like Amber says, you have to go either with like the seniors or if the
ADA.
police or the
Yeah.
justice court are for enough along with.
And Barbara, I don't know if you know, if there's a project that we do ourselves, and then can we get paid for it after the fact? In other words, if we decide that we can't wait on the house.
Yeah,
Rebate.
I think I have to wait for the release of funds. But
No,
I
what I'm
think,
saying is, can we put in for it after the fact?
I don't think so. I mean, that happened once when we were doing the kitchen and they bought some equipment and I didn't have the release of funds date. So
Okay,
you have to always wait till they give you that release of funds.
Yeah.
However, that woman, Diana Weir,
yeah,
so
yeah,
she had a way to do it without waiting. So maybe with a big project.
Right.
Because that would be their complaint.
yeah,
You know, we have to meet payroll. We can't
Right.
wait on your money to meet a payroll. So there must be a way to go around that on a big
Okay.
project that they work.
so I think we should prioritize and define exactly what the projects are that we want to.
No, this one's very doable, I think. I think they would like, and they keep saying they want to come out,
Yeah,
postponed twice. So maybe I could ask her,
I would love that opportunity.
why don't you come
I
and
think-
see what we have? Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you can make a lot of units over there.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you can go all the way,
Yeah.
all the way back.
yeah.
Yeah. Especially if you get your, if you get your sewer system. Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of steps. It's always the
There are,
water and the sewer, right? That's always the thing.
and one way or another, we have to address that bill.
But I think there were like 4 units go, right? So
Our next then, we have to set the public hearing.
We'll see.
Meeting for the public hearing on November
Right,
9th.
yeah.
So
So that gives us a good 2 or 3 weeks to
come up with
come up with
something,
what we want, yeah.
yes, for the,
If we could, as soon as I get back, I would love to have that field trip next door. You know, I think that would be,
Ask Barbara, you give her your schedule.
okay.
And your schedule. DJ, any comments on this one? You good? You're on mute. Good, thank you. Okay. All right, so that's that. Next is the CPF procedures. This we circulated, make sure we're doing everything by the book. Again, a lot of times we do things the way it's always been done, and then we get challenged on it that this is not what the procedure says or what the code says. So Stephen, you want to walk us through this draft?
Sure. I did present it to CPF many months ago. I've reached out for their comment. And just to start, Town Law Section 64E5 states that the town board of any town in the Conic Bay region which has established a community preservation fund shall create an advisory board to review and make recommendations on proposed acquisitions of interests in real property, water quality improvement projects using monies from the fund. And such board shall serve as an advisory body. The exact verbiage is the board shall act in an advisory capacity to the town board. So in that context, we've come up with a procedure to foster the communication between CPF and the town board. I'll just run through it quickly. And again, this was not made up at a whole cloth. I've modeled it after Southold, Southampton, and East Hampton. So the first step would be, we would have an application, and a property owner or a member of the CPF can submit an application for acquisition. So it's submitted to the CPF advisory board. That triggers the process. And at that point, the town engineer will go into a site visit and review the property and issue a written analysis of the property. Then CPF will have an executive session to discuss the potential acquisition. From that point, whether they recommend to purchase the property or they recommend not purchasing the property, the CPF chair will then discuss that with the town board in an executive session. At that point, if the town board wants to acquire the property, then the CPF will order an appraisal and seek partners such as the county. Once the appraisal is received, CPF will then meet again in executive session to discuss a potential offer. The CPF chair will then bring that offer to the town board in an executive session, and based on the appraisals, have a conversation with the town board, and the town board will come up with an actual offer. That offer will then be presented to the seller. If accepted, then a contingent contract will be signed. The contingency will be on a public hearing. And at that point, there'll be a work session to bring the acquisition to the town board like we just recently did in Laverde. And then a public hearing will be scheduled. If after the public hearing, the purchase is going forward, then a closing will be set. So it's a pretty rudimentary process, but I think it's an important one to make sure, all the town board members and the CPF are all on the same page with acquisitions. And also that the town board can make a fully informed decision on acquisitions. So I incorporated a couple of comments from CPF into this. So I think we're ready to adopt it via resolution and utilize it going forward, because I know they have several properties in the hopper.
So we need to do this by resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and trying to explain this further to the public about why you need to do this. So a rationale, one of the things is that you get an honest appraisal and you don't overpay on a property. I mean, that would be one, correct?
Yep.
What would be a second? To check for water quality on the?
Well, that you ensure a public hearing
Oh, okay,
is another part. You make sure that you have public input.
right.
We can request things like water test results and stuff when it comes to our appraisal of the property or what kind of offer we want to make. But I think it's mostly to make sure that we're kind of going by the book on the process and how it was meant to be.
Right.
And that we're making sure that the public has their say, that the CPF committee gets to weigh in, that the town engineer gets to weigh in, that it's a fully vetted purchase prior to,
Okay.
Contract.
Yeah, and having the engineer involved at the outset's very important. And that actually, was a recommendation that came from the CPF, because we had the engineer coming in later in the process. And I just think it's important that he get out there first and determine if there's any major issues, and that could be vetted at the CPF level and then ultimately get to us. So, and just having his expertise out there is very important.
All right, so that's a good rationale for, I just wrote down 3 or 4 things that so people fully understand why we're doing what we're doing.
No, and again, like, the law is crystal clear. The town board has to take a more active role in these acquisitions. Heretofore, the CPF was really basically running the show as far as acquisitions, and then the town board really rubber stamping it. This is forcing the town board to really get involved with these acquisitions. And again, a part and parcel of that is to get the public input through a public hearing.
So again, just to follow up on what we're explaining to the public, you've also heard out there that, it's not broke, don't fix it, it's worked that way. But again, Stephen's keeps reminding us that there's rules and guidelines that we need to follow. And that's what we're doing, is putting those in place.
And it's also, again, you look at other towns, like Southampton has a very robust CPF, they're flush with money.
Yeah.
And, they have a whole department dedicated to it. They have a full-time attorney that just handles CPF. And they have at least 2 support staff in that department. I talked to them over there, and they actually was like, oh, that's a great idea with the application process. Because then you have like a cradle to grave of each acquisition or non-acquisition. And what's also important to note is that we'll have a written record of why the town board doesn't choose to go forward with an acquisition. So we'll have that in this cradle to grave file with the application.
Yeah.
BJ's got her hand up.
BJ?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, it creates interchangeability. In other words, anybody can step into the job of town board liaison after après moi, and this gives a clear set of steps that we could look at for the next person, or even me, can look at for each property. Where are we? Where are we in these steps for each property that's being considered? And I think that's kind of key to keep it going without any hitches in the giddy up.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, good point.
And I also think that we've had people like try and come to the town board to say, we want you to look, I want you, or, my wife and I want you to look at this property acquisition. And we like, no, you have to talk to CPF. So here it is memorialized.
The CPF will review
This is
it.
our procedure, like we won't entertain it. It has to go through.
I think one of the most important things here is having the town engineer earlier involved in the process. I like that idea of getting him out front, because that's the person best qualified for us to be able to make some type of decent judgment about the possibility of a purchase or not. The second thing is, I think lessons learned. I think the White property was an eye opener for all of us. When the committee had worked hard, long and hard, trying to get this acquisition, and it was fragmented, and they were trying to break the lots up, and the county was then threatening to pull out and was going to do so. And, after all was said and done, the town board had 2 pretty fast, hard rules right here. Number 1, we're buying all 5 lots or nothing. And number 2 is that if the county's not involved in this purchase, we're not involved in this purchase. So, actually telling the committee that a little earlier on in the process helps them in terms of negotiating as well, because they spend a lot of time and effort and energy going into this and negotiating. And then suddenly, the town board turns around and says, oh yeah, by the way, we forgot to tell you that you don't even pursue this Avenue B, because it's either all 5 lots or nothing, or the parking situation, or the right of way, or, there were a lot of lessons, I think, that we learned through that process. And God knows, and I want to reiterate, the town board has been very pleased with the dynamics of the existing committee, the leadership of it, what they've done in the past. This is just something that will improve that process vastly, will get us all on the same sheet of music, will also improve communication, which is always what we've talked about in the past, about being more clear with one another. So I think that helps the town board and the CPF communicate even better, on these projects earlier on in the process.
Yeah, and to dovetail on that, it just cuts out like the telephone game. Like,
Yeah.
you go right to the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
CPF chair, right to the town board, en masse, the
Yeah.
entire town board. It's not like, a liaison saying, yeah, I agree with this, but then brings it back to the town board and they don't want to do this or that.
Right.
So now it's direct line of communication, and I think it'll be a better served mechanism.
Yeah, it's a good step.
So this just needs to be adopted by resolution. So at our October 18th meeting, we can put it on for resolution.
Yeah, like arguably it doesn't, it could just be an in-house policy, but I think we should legitimize it by doing it by resolution.
I agree.
Sounds good.
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next on the list is the SOSH WQI rebate. We have,
Excuse myself from that conversation.
okay,
Okay, so this is, we're just, as we've discussed, we're getting back to,
procedure.
getting back to, proper procedure. So this was forwarded to us by Coco on 22nd, so last Thursday. It's a straightforward 5-day avenue. The funding request is $8,000. So there's a 6,000 plus shower pressure. Something is the other 2,000. So unless anybody had any questions on it.
The only question I have is, looking at the resolution for tonight, what's a conditional rebate? What does that mean, Stephen?
Oh, it's conditional upon them
Putting it in.
fulfilling, for
Yeah.
installing
For
it
following
and,
through with it.
getting the,
So they say they're gonna do something and they end up
Okay.
doing that other thing and they want the money. So you gotta make sure it's conditional on the fact that
Gotcha.
they
Yeah,
follow
that's why
through.
that wording was always used. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, so we can put that on, it's on. for
it's on the agenda,
today,
yes.
so, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's it. Christine and Meg can come back. Guess Meg is involved with that
Yeah,
project.
Meg Larson, she recused herself just because she's involved in that. Start going around the table.
BJ, you want to go, you have anything for us? Go around the table? No, you good? Okay. Amber?
Let me think for a second. I forgot about this part of the meeting.
I'll go. I
Just like, what
just.
did I do last week?
Jim didn't forget.
I know, Jim will give you some time.
No. Let everybody see it. My only comment is, October 22nd, 2:00, the dedication of the town clerk's office at Shelter Island Community Center, be away for a meeting. So I want to get the word out there. Hopefully, we're going to get beautiful weather like a day like today. And we're going to get a huge crowd out to support Dottie's dedication of the town clerk's office. The program is now finished. The speakers are now assigned, working on the Star Spangled Banner and a couple dot the I, cross the Ts, working with the building department with Brian Sherman and to get enough chairs, sufficient number of chairs out there that will, Plan B, of course, is indoors. Our Plan A on a nice day is outdoors. Ceremony will probably be about an hour and 15 minutes or so. I talked to Dave Clark, Commander Clark, yesterday. We'll open up the Legion afterwards for things, if anybody wants to go down there. It happens to be on the same night, the same day as the fire department dinner, which I think is that night at 6:00. So it's a chance for the town to celebrate the town. And there's no better person that to come out for is for Dottie. So I'm hoping that everybody writes it on your calendar. That's 3 weeks from this Saturday, 2:00, right here at the community center. It'd be a great event. Thank you.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, and Dot, don't, I hope what I'm gonna say doesn't come out the wrong way, but, sometimes people say, well, why are you dedicating, and, it's something we would do one way or the other, but I think it's, important to do it while the person is still here to appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do things after the fact and, it's nice for the family, but we want to show Dot, how important you are to this town. How everyone feels about it. I think the turnout will show that. So I think it's going to be a real nice event. And again, that's why we want to do it so that, you get to appreciate it.
And Ed Brown is coming up for it. I thought Ed
Oh,
wasn't
great.
coming up and I was gonna have to find somebody to give the speech, but Ed will be here. All the speakers are confirmed.
Oh, that's great.
Brian Dillinger will supply us with the sound system, so we'll have the sound system hooked up. We're pretty much finalizing, where we're at with this event. Be a nice event.
Great. Looking forward to it. Okay, anything else?
Nope.
Right.
Amber?
EMS, we covered a lot of it in the budget meeting, but for those in the public who won't tune into the budget meetings, because it's like watching paint dry. Just so that everyone knows that the Stony Brook Southampton contract to have the paid EMT started on August 18th, and they are here on the island from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m., and it's been working great with.
7 days a week.
7 days a week.
Yep.
It's been working great with, the combination of volunteers and the paid staff. Their call count so far this year is 221. They're expecting that's right on target to hit between 300 and 310 calls per year. So that's almost one call per day. And the volunteers are currently sitting at 36 volunteers. So.
Yeah, it's a nice increase and a lot of younger members.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So that was the MS meeting, and that's all that I have.
That was the best part of that whole meeting. I didn't realize that our numbers are up
Yeah.
and we're getting younger, and we just got to make sure we can keep these people on board. And then we
Yep.
talked about sending one of those young people to school to get more, to increase their certification abilities. So, that's one of the reasons why we were trying to encourage young people to try to keep young people here on the island, because it's to all of our advantages to have a strong EMT program and a strong fire department and police department as we do. So thank you.
And just to dovetail on that, we increased the proposal in the budget from $130,000 to $240,000 for the position.
You want to explain why we did that? We're going 24 hours.
Well, we have the
Yes.
potential to go 24 hours
Yep.
or a second man that shift
Right.
if we need it, or if down the road, the partnership, if Stony Brook, Southampton decides to change. Okay. And then, Meg?
So we had a comp plan meeting last night, and that went well. We're going to try something new this month. So we've broken down into small groups, and each small group is going to do a deep dive into a chapter that we've developed. And they're charged with going out and seeking additional information if they need it, figuring out if we have any gaps in the chapter, what information we need to fill, that kind of thing. So we're going to be doing that this month, which I think is going to be a really, I'm optimistic. I think it's going to be fun. And then-
We change it, you still on comp? Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and so our next comp plan meeting is October 24th. So we're not having a public workshop in October. We'll have another public workshop November 18th. But we're just going to keep digging into the chapters and moving forward.
I just wanted to say, Meg, I try to observe these meetings, and you had a real good focus meeting last night. I thought it was very productive.
Thank you. I think it went well.
18th meeting's on a Friday?
It's on a Friday, yeah, because it was a very busy Monday, like a bunch of Mondays in November.
And that will be
In the calendar.
6:30?
Those are actually at 7.
7,
Yeah.
okay. Filling it in.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Stephen?
Not a legal thing, but I was reading the Shelter Island Reporter website this morning and came across an article that men were saved when boats sank off Real Point. And, a couple of our Bay constables were involved in assisting a couple of gentlemen that, were in a capsized boat. So I think they need a attaboy for that.
I think probably,
It was Butch and Bo who
Yeah.
were part of the rest.
right, and I would think probably there's an officer on too.
Yeah.
Involved, so I think what we'll usually, after the fact, we'll get the chief in and we'll honor
The key point there was there were 4 fishermen, 2 out in the boat and 2 on land. And thank God the ones on land had a cell phone. So that when the boat capsized, when it started taking on water, it was a rough night, and they were out in the nighttime. So when that boat started taking on water, they tried getting it in, they couldn't get it in, and it ended up sinking. The good news was they had, from what I gather from police department headquarters, that they had life jackets, and they decided to stay with the boat, which they didn't panic because the tide might have been going out. And if they didn't have life jackets, even though it looks like I can make that swim, you get caught up in that tide, you get exhausted. Now you can't get to the boat. Now you're being flushed out. It's still dark. There's no rescue boat there. It could have been disaster.
There are very
So,
strong currents in that area.
yeah,
too.
so it all worked out well, and our guys got out there. That's the beauty of having our people here right on Shelter Island. Our first responders, because this is how quickly they
Right.
react and respond.
Mhm.
And I think the fact that we've increased the number of places that you can get a police boat now towards that, whether it's on the north side of the island,
Right.
east side, south side of the island, we have those places, where we can get to a police boat and cut the response time down. Can be the difference between life and death. As it turned out, both gentlemen, thank God the water it wasn't a month away, like in November, where hypothermia would have definitely been an issue, but they were suffering some signs of hypothermia. They went to the hospital, they were transported to the hospital, evaluated, released, but it was a good call all the way around.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, that's it for the board members. Julia, any questions?
I have a question. It has to do with this format for the CPF. I'm assuming it's kind of baked in that when the CPF is, I think it's in, I don't know, step 3, deciding whether a property should be recommended, that would be in keeping with the CPF's acquisition plan?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Every acquisition has to be.
Okay. Thank you.
Good point, though.
Julie, anything on your end?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, I'll make a motion. We go into executive session to discuss employee and contract negotiations.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.